Explore cultural practices of storytelling and reading, examining the unique impacts on children's language development. I'm Dr. Emily Sherwood. For more information, please like and subscribe. So, one thing I hear a lot, and especially throughout my career, I've heard a lot was, well, that parent doesn't help the kid, and that these children get no support at home. Why are we giving them books? Because they won't, even if they go to the library to get books, they won't take them home and they won't read them because they just don't do that. Unfortunately, this is an attitude that's found in a lot of schools with high poverty and with high diversity. There's this idea that, you can't even give kids books because it won't do any good for them to take them home. Because the parents won't read with them and you may not get the books back. So it's no good. The only literacy that goes on is within the school. And that's just not true. But today I'm going to talk about one practice that is really common in American culture that really differs around the world, and that is shared book reading. You also may see joint book reading if you look in the literature of this. But shared book reading is the practice of reading to children. And here in the United States, this is considered one of the things that parents should do to help their children. There's a lot of literature by people with PhDs who have very high levels of research and education who basically say that, this is the key to helping your child is reading to your child. And there's even a format that is suggested to do. Parent educators will sometimes teach parents to do it in this way. The parents may get literature and be encouraged, even by the pediatrician's office sometimes, to read in a certain way. And that's to have the child on the lap, to read particular books that, are considered really good books, and to be very interactive with children. So to ask questions, to show the children the pictures, to talk about the books. It's not enough just to read a book, according to this idea. And this idea really became popular in the 1990s and early 2000s. The Barbara Bush Foundation was very involved in the idea of parents reading to children. And there was also some research about this. And if you're interested in that, I'm going to put my dissertation in the description box. And there's a lot of sources that talk about joint book reading. There's a whole section in there. But anyway, that's the idea of what a good parent is in the United States, is that they read to their child. And you'll hear teachers, principals, education experts talk about reading to children. There'll be informational sessions about reading to children and public service announcements, and that's really considered a thing. But is it the only thing that really matters? Is it vital that parents read to children in this way to learn how to read? And the answer is simply no. So in most cultures around the world, reading to children is not something that's done. Or if it's done at a slightly older age, maybe after age 4 or 5. Whereas here, they expect you to read books starting at birth. And the pediatrician office will sometimes give parents books starting when their child's a very young infant, a newborn. And children all over the world still learn how to read. Okay? It's not the end of the world if a child is not read to every night. That being said, children do need to acquire some of the skills that reading aloud to children offers. So what are those? So the main benefits of reading to children are print awareness, which means tracking words, and also oral language. Children need to hear language, a lot of language. Now, globally, that's largely done through telling stories. It's very common in most cultures to tell stories. Many cultures still do not have a lot of access to books. Books may be very expensive in areas where there's high poverty. There are also cultures and languages that don't have a written alphabet still. That's actually pretty common in a lot of Latin America and parts of Asia and Africa. So parents will tell stories to children. That has a similar effect, because the children hear the language, and then when they begin to read, they're able to use that language. So language is very, very important. Also, in the United States and in other places, families may read to children. They may practice literacy with shared book reading. They may interact with books, but it may be in a very different format. So, for example, in the United States, most culturally diverse families, particularly Latino families, will read to children, but it will look very different than what is considered the norm. So in Latin America and also in Asia, and really probably most of the world, a child is not considered to be ready to learn until about age 3 or 4. And it's considered kind of a waste to spend time and resources working with children until then. So shared book reading happens a little bit older, usually, when the child is in preschool or maybe even kindergarten. And before that age, actually, it could be considered punishment, which is really interesting, that they might actually use reading punishment because they feel like it's torture for a very young child. In some cultures, it's like torture to make the child sit on your lap and read a long story when that child is young. Also, reading to children takes on type of moral education. So parents will often read about things that tell a story or a moral, because moral education is very, very important, particularly in Latin American families. It's important for children to learn morals and values, and parents are the ones who are responsible for doing that, more than the schools who are responsible for teaching more academic skills. So parents will use stories like that. Many times the Bible is used as a text. If families are Christian, the Quran; if it's a Muslim family, the Torah; if it's a Jewish family, they will use religious books. Catholics will use the catechism. They will use all kinds of things. Environmental print, things like recipes, things like instructions, cereal boxes, especially families who have little access to books because they may be rural, they may not have money, they may not have transportation. They will use things like that. That is still encouraging literacy. And also, as I said in the last video, it may be other people besides the parents primarily providing literacy education at home. Maybe aunts, uncles, grandmothers, siblings. Siblings are huge. And some families I know have had older siblings read to children. And that helps the older siblings to develop literacy as well as helping the younger children. So ultimately, yes, shared book reading is a helpful practice, but it's not the only practice, and it doesn't need to be done in this specific, very structured, very middle-class American way. It can be done in other ways. And parents need to identify, teachers need to identify and recognize that children can do things in their own way in homes, and it's fine. If it works for the family and it promotes literacy, families should be doing it. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day and keep learning.